Let's knit two-color brioche. Welcome back to another Yarnspirations tutorial. I'm your host, Kristen Mangus of Good Knit Kisses. Let's get started. In today's tutorial, you'll need a super bulky number 6 weight yarn. We're using Bernat Softy Chunky in color lavender for contrast A and color sea green for contrast B. To download your pattern, click on the link in the description below. We're knitting the Brioche Accent Knit Cowl. It's a beautiful cowl that's actually a little longer than normal, and you double it over and get this beautiful reversible look. So it's not a right and wrong side, it's actually a reversible fabric. You're working with two colors. You want to be sure and pick something that has a nice contrast with one another. We are using color lavender and sea green, but in the pattern, we're using clay and forest. You can use whatever colors you like, but pick out 2 balls of each Bernat Softy Chunky. You're going to want a US size 11 or 8 millimeter circular needle with 36-inch cord. I'm using a 40-inch cord on mine, or the size of needle to obtain the gauge. This is an intermediate pattern. We'll be making it a little easier with working on this video, so it may not feel like an intermediate pattern. So jump right in. If you need some slower techniques, be sure and click on that link in the blog for those. This size is approximately 12 inches, although you can make it a little smaller, and it's 50 inches all the way around, and that way you can double it over, flip it over, and enjoy both sides of this reversible showing through. If you don't want to make it 50 inches, just make sure that your cast on is a multiple of 2. We're casting on with 124 stitches. I will show you how to do that, and you could take off even 20 stitches and make this a smaller size if you wish. We will go with the whole thing, and I'll show you how big that looks. The gauge is 11 stitches in 14 rows and a 4-inch or 10 centimeter stocking stitch. So you just want to make a stocking knit sample in one of the colors and test that out if you want to make sure your size is accurate. We'll go through the cast on, and we'll go through the first round to set it up, and then we'll be working back and forth between the second and third rounds. Then we will wrap it up at the end and cast off. The abbreviations you're going to need to know is how to knit, how to purl, how to yarn over, and then there will be different ways we hold the yarn in there, slipping in a different way. And then you'll also need to know how to knit 2 together and purl 2 together. That's it. Let's get started working in the rounds. Grab your yarn and needles, and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, you want to cast on in whatever method you're comfortable with and connect it in the round. You're casting on 124 stitches. This is going to be 50 inches in the round, so measure out 50 inches times about 3. So 3 times the length is the amount of tail you need for a long tail cast on. You can also do a knitted cast on, which means you don't have to measure this out, or other cast ons are available. This is really about 4.5 or 5 yards, so pull out about 5 arm lengths, and then we're going to put it on with the tail towards us and the ball part at the back, and we'll go through a couple of these stitches here. So we're just going to pull this out, hold them with our fingers here, and split it between our thumb and our finger. Pull back, you got a little heart shape here. Scoop up where that thumb is, go down where the finger is, down through the thumb, and let the thumb go, and make that nice and about the same gauge here. We're going to scoop that up again through the thumb and go down where the finger is, down through the thumb, let it go. Make sure these are all nice and even. So just continue going along until you have 124 stitches. And if you do need a slower video, the link is on the blog for the slower videos. Continue on until you have 124. You can do a multiple of 2 and have less. If you want to not make it 50 inches in the round and make it less, just make sure you have a multiple of 2 stitches. And I will meet you back up to show you how to join. Be sure and have a stitch marker that you can slide easily onto your needles, and I'll show you how to show the beginning of the round here in a moment. See you soon. Right, so we've got all of our stitches on here. We've slipped them to the end of the needles, and I've got them laid flat down on the table here. And we want to put all of these stitches where the end are, towards the inside. Okay, we want to make sure they're not twisted around like this, because we're going to connect them, and if you connect them twisted, it's not going to work. So we want to put them all towards the inside. Okay, double check that. I've got my yarn tail out here because I'm going to connect them. Make sure you've got your stitch marker ready, and let's slide these first and last stitches, and we're going to switch positions here. So I'm going to take this one on my left needle off, kind of hold it out towards me here, and then pick up the stitch on my right here, and then put my stitch that I was holding onto the right. So now we have stitches on both sides that have been switched, and I can pull on my tails and my working yarn, which is coming from my ball, and make those stitches nice and even. So now where these are connected, I'm just going to slip my stitch marker in on the right needle, and that's going to mark the beginning of round 1. All right, so we're ready to begin round 1. This is the only time that this first round is worked. So with A, which is whatever you started with, and it's okay if you switch the color that you wanted to do, because it's going to be reversible, and our last round is going to be the opposite color. So you can flip this upside down, backwards, and it's fully reversible. So with A, which is this color here, you're going to knit the first stitch. So make sure your yarn is between these two needles towards the back, and knit, whoops, drop that needle, drop that stitch marker here. Okay, make sure that this first stitch, you're going into that front leg of the stitch here. Okay, we're going to knit. Okay, so you're just going to insert your right needle into this stitch like this. Take your yarn from your ball, wrap it around that needle, pull it on through, and knit. That's the knit stitch, and then just slide off the old stitch onto the just down below here. Okay, so that's the first stitch, knit 1. Then we're going to yarn over, which is simply putting the yarn around the right needle, and then we're going to slip 1 purlwise with the yarn end back. That means we're going to slip this stitch purlwise, so we insert as if we're going to purl, and we just simply slip it over, and then this yarn is in the back because I've already pushed it to the back, so it's just kind of just being held there. Okay, then we're going to repeat all the way around. So we're going to knit this stitch here. So you walk around like that, and so now when I wrap my yarn around, that yarn lays here, and it kind of lays over slightly this stitch here. So see how it's kind of twisted? And that's okay. I'm going to let that fall off. So now we've knit 1, yarn over, slip that stitch, knit the next stitch. Okay? Got that? So we're going to do that again, and then we yarn over, slip the next stitch, and then knit. Okay, so you're just going to repeat that all the way around by, after you knit, you always yarn over and slip. So it's knit, yarn over, slip, knit, yarn over, slip. So when you have completed it, we'll join back up at the end here. Be sure and pause your video, and I'll see you when you completed round 1, and we'll start round 2 adding in the new color. See you soon. Okay, at the end of round 1, we have a slip with the yarn end back as the very last stitch. So we've got the yarn over, and then this last stitch here is going to be tight because that's where we had traded those 2 stitches. So be a little tighter to slip that. Leave this yarn at the back. You're going to drop it and just let it lay there. Now, it may find its way back towards the front, so when you get to the next round, after the end of round 2, make sure that you remember that this is laying at the back, and you will be working with this, and we'll address that on the next round. Okay, pick up your next yarn. Do not cut the contrast A. Hold the tail at the back, so you have nice tension here. Go ahead and move your stitch marker over. Okay, now we're ready to begin round 2. Okay, so this is going to be the start of our repeat. We'll be repeating between round 2 and round 3. So if you need to mark this spot, do that for convenience for later. So with B, we're going to yarn over, and then we're going to slip with the yarn in back. Then we're going to yarn front. Now, you don't simply move it forward because then you would be getting rid of that yarn over. You're going to go all the way around the needle and to the front of this stitch here. So it goes to the side around here. So it wraps over the top and back and then around again to the front part here. And then we're going to take these 2 stitches next to each other, 1, 2, and purl them using this yarn that's in the front now. Okay, take those, wrap around, yarn over, and you're just going to simply push that tip up and under through those 2 stitches, making a new stitch, drop these 2 off, and now you have your second yarn on there. Okay, so then you're going to repeat that. We're going to yarn over, which is it just simply laying it back here, then slip that stitch, and then make the yarn go all the way around to the other side, wrapping that yarn front and going underneath the first 2 stitches here to purl. You're going to purl these 2 stitches together. Okay, there we go. So now you see we've got our second yarn here. So now you've got your B and A, B, B, A, B, and so it's the next yarn that you're going to see is another one of these B's. So we've got a yarn over, slip that stitch, and then yarn front. So we go all the way around to the front and then purl those 2 together. So you see you've got a pattern emerging here, and whenever you work with B, you're going to see 2 stitches between one of the A, so 2 of the B's. So you'll know that you're on a round with the B's as the main color because it's beginning to emerge that there's more of that color. When we get to the next round, it's going to switch up. All right, so continue along with your pattern where you're just going to slip that stitch and leave that yarn in the front here, and then when you go all the way around, it appears with the yarn over and it has the yarn in front, which is prepared for that purl. So if you think about it this way, leave it front to have purls, slip that stitch, go around so you continue to have purls, and then purl again. What happens is it sets these stitches here that you're going and wrapping around, this is going to become a knit column of a singular color of that A, which matches your cast on row. So continue going and we'll meet you back at the end where the stitch marker is and work on the 3rd round. See you soon. Okay, I'm nearing the end of round 2, and only on this first time that you come to this will this look very different like this. You've got a couple of tails. It could be very confusing, so I just want to make sure that you grab the right ones. Some of this will be how you're going to see it when you come to the end of the 3rd round again and have to do this again. So I want you to notice that you're going to have your working tail that was from the yarn ball for A, and it may have fallen in the front like mine has. It needs to go to the back here. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is, of course, you've got your tail that you've been working with going from the ball of yarn for B, so that will stay here. And then you have these 2 yarn tails. One of them may be flipped up like this. You may have that extra purple one here. Your A, so make sure it's down. So these are the 2 cut tails. Just make sure they're down. They're A and B, and they just need to be out of the way. And if you need to kind of hold them in your left hand to make sure that they're out of the way and not confusing for the first few rounds, then do that. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that our A is towards the back over the top of this needle here, and we have just purled 2 together. Go ahead and slip that stitch, and then we're going to go around and yarn front. So we've got that yarn over, that curl 2 together, slip the stitch, and then yarn front. And then now we want to take this tail here that's to the back, and we'll take this stitch, this next stitch here, and whoops, here's a perfect example here. So I've got my ball right here, And then it looks like I have 2 more stitches right here, okay? But it's not. What the problem is I have this tail. This is that tail. See that? How that could be tricky? Ta-da! So it's actually 2 stitches left, and this is where you're going to purl 2 together. So make sure that you're using this tail here. Make sure you're using from the ball in this last stitch, not the tail, and then go ahead and purl these 2 together. And you can pull back on this other yarn to make sure that it's nice and snug. Okay? So that way, we've got that last stitch done, and then we're done with that round. Move our stitch marker over, and you can continue. So now we're going to begin the third round. We're going to leave B alone and pick up A, and we'll start working with that for it. I'm going to move my stitch marker back so you can see the beginning of that round. So third round with A, we're going to knit 2 together. That's these first 2 stitches. Knit those together just like that. So we went into the leg of the stitch and yarned over. Let me do that again, slower. Put these 2 stitches together, go right inside these 2 legs, wrap around, pull through, and that is knit together. Now you may see that it's really loose here for that first round here, so just go ahead and pull on your tails and make sure it's nice and snug. I like to get that done first so that my stitches are all going to look nice and even. Okay, make sure you're pulling with your ball yarn and work the next stitch. So continue with a yarn over on your right needle, and then we're going to slip with the yarn and back. Okay, we're slipping purlwise with the yarn and back, and repeat. Knit 2 together, yarn over, slip the stitch, knit 2 together, yarn over, slip the stitch, knit 2 together, yarn over, slip the stitch. Now you see how this one is in front, okay? Just flip it over. That was that yarn over from the previous round, and this one's actually the next stitch. So we're going to work with this stitch, not this one that's crossed over like this, kind of loosey-goosey. So slip that stitch and then knit these 2 together. So do you remember I was talking about that column of the purple or the A? You're starting to see it appear here. And now you can tell that I have 2 stitches in between, so 2 of A and 1 of B, which is opposite of the last round. So you're going to continue in this round, repeating, knitting 2 together, yarning over, slipping that stitch, knit 2, yarn over, slip the stitch. I'll meet you back at the end of the round, and we'll go from there. See you soon. Pause that video. Coming to the end of the third round, and I'm knitting together 2 and yarn over, and then I slip the next stitch and I am done. I've got this yarn laying in the front, which is B, and I'm ready to start my second round. I just leave this yarn at the back. Remember, it's just like we ended on the first round, and you're going to be using this later, and you'll be purling these 2 stitches together at the end of this second round, because after this third round that we just completed, now we're going to do a second round and then a third round. We go back and forth between the second and third rounds and repeat those 2 rows until we have the desired length. Now, I'm going to continue on the video, and you will be repeating these, but go ahead and let the video roll. I want you to see it as I've knitted a longer amount, and I'm going to give you a tip on where to stop, because I don't want you to stop right at the stitch marker here, because I could just easily move this over and then start the new round. We want that stitch marker to be in there by 1 or 2 stitches at least, but actually a little bit more, and I'll show you why in a moment. It's going to be easier to keep your place if you follow my instructions in the next segment. All right, so go ahead and continue watching that part of the video, and I will see you in a little bit. Okay, so I wanted to show you what this looks like with quite a bit knitted already, and not to worry, it's okay. But this is a part where I want to give you some tips. So you can see that this is on here nice and well, but if you decide to stop and right at the end of your round, you may have an issue because you may forget which way this yarn goes, because the yarn from the previous round may need to be held at the back, but it's not really apparent. And so this one is held here in the front. And so you want to be able to keep up with that. So I suggest stopping short of finishing your round, maybe like 6 stitches or so, or working the next part of your round in about 6 stitches. And that way you know which round to start on or which round you're ending with, but also the stitch marker won't fall off, and you'll be able to tell what the difference is between this yarn and this yarn. So that's a quick tip on that. You can see that it looks nice and squishy. It is working up really well. So far I have my tape measure here. Let's go ahead and measure and see how long this is. So I'm just going to measure from this beginning up to where my cord is lying. Make sure this is nice. And we're not going to stretch it, but I'm going to pull it out a little bit just to make sure. So I'm at 11 inches so far, and I just need to knit another inch, or I can stop a little short, and then we will work our what's called the next row, and we're going to be working it with color B. So you will finish with color A, which is the 3rd round, and then you will break this. So pause your video, and when you're ready to start the completion, we'll come back and we'll discuss that part. See you soon. So I've repeated the last 2 rounds for the brioche stitch pattern until the work measures my desired length, and we're going to end on a 3rd round. That means we have completed the one that has the contrast A. So I'm just going to leave a tail and break A. So I'm just breaking it with my scissors, and leave this just down. Now it does kind of flop to the back because that's where it was supposed to be hanging. When you get to the end here, I'll show you what to do with that. So let's go ahead and move our stitch marker over and begin this round. Okay, our instructions say with B, which is also still held in the front, we are going to knit 1. So I'm going to put my yarn to the back around that stitch marker, and we'll knit 1. Okay, bring our yarn forward, and we'll purl 2 together, yarn to the back, and knit 1, and we'll repeat purling 2 together. So where these 2 stitches are together, purling 2 together and knitting 1, and you're knitting that column here. So we're knitting that last column, yarn forward, and purling these 2 stitches together. So where you see the stitches laying together, purl them together, and when you see the single one, you just knit that. All right, continue all the way around, and I'll meet you back up at the very end. See you soon. Okay, we're coming towards the end here. I'm going to purl the stitch, knit and the last stitch, and then the last knit 2, purl 2 together is including this one. That's our tail. Okay, so remember this contrast A was supposed to be held in the back, so you just need to pull it back a little bit and work with it into a purl 2 together, and that completes that round, and you are ready to bind off. We are going to be casting off or binding off knitwise. So we're going to put our yarn to the back, and then this will be the end of our pattern here. So we're just going to knit 2 stitches and then lift that first loop over. You're going to pass this first loop over the second loop, up and over like that. You want to make sure and cast off loosely because we want to make sure that the end is just as nice and stretchy as the beginning. And notice they are in the 2 different colors because it's really showing that you have that accent and reversible. So continue by knitting the next stitch and then passing that stitch over the previous stitch that you just did. So continue, knit 1, pass that stitch over to cast off. And make sure and keep it nice and loose. You'll have this nice edge on here. And when we get to the end, I'll join you back up. Pause your video and I'll see you soon. Okay, we're coming to the end. I've got the 2 stitches left here. I'm going to knit this last stitch. Okay, you can see that loose strand from that other tail. Ignore that still, leaving it at the back. And we're going to lift that first stitch over, pass that slip stitch over. And then we want to just draw through this one right here. Okay, so we'll just pull this yarn and cut it off. Let it pull all the way through. It looks a little different right here. So we want to study the edge here. And you see how you've got these knit stitches running in this direction here. And if you roll these onto this edge, they're going in this direction here. So we actually want to connect these 2 pieces. So examining where they come from, and they should go around. I want to take my, my yarn and make it go around and connect this here. So we want to make that V stitch. So we're actually going to bring it around to this left side through here and out, and then come back around again to imitate that loop. So let's get our tapestry needle out. All right, so we're just going to ignore this one here because it's actually going to get trapped in below here, and so it won't look like it's just sitting on top like it is currently. So we're going to go right into where these stitches are. We've got this V part of the stitch here, 1 and 2. Okay, go all the way through and pull that, and then go in to those V stitches there, and that pull that in. And match your gauge for the rest of it, and see how that looks like the rest of it. Look at that. And then this one is now hiding at the back. It doesn't look like it's just bumping out on the top. So that goes all the way through, and then you're just going to want to work in below these stitches here in the back. Okay, and tie that in. So now we're just going to work along side to get these stitches in to match and be hidden. And I'm just going to go through these stitches along this knit column and hide that. So you're going to weave that tail in and take this one and weave that tail into here, and it will hide your stitches. And any place where you had to add in yarn, you may have little tails here and there. And what I had done is I left the yarn tail long. If you've seen me do these before, I just leave the yarn tail in and add on the new one, and I may add in a little bitty knot as I go so I can keep my tension the same, and then I unknot it like this, and then I'll just weave my tails in after I am done. So weave your tails in, and I'll meet you back when you're finished. See you soon. I hope you liked making your brioche accent knit cowl today. Again, remember, it's twice as wide, so double it up and flip it over and enjoy both sides of it at the same time. Or you can wear it long like an infinity scarf. Thanks for joining me today. On behalf of Yarnspirations and Good Knit Kisses, I'm your host, Kristen, wishing you happy knitting. Bye-bye.